Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. You know that feeling when time just kind of slips right through your fingers? Like you blink and suddenly a whole year went by? Well, today we're exploring exactly that. We're diving into how ancient wisdom can fundamentally shift the way we value our time on Earth. It's all about realizing impermanence and cherishing life. So if you've ever wondered what the true purpose of your daily routine really is, you'll definitely want to stick around for this one. So, let's kick things off with a simple but honestly surprisingly difficult question. Just how long is a human life? To answer this, there's this fascinating story from ancient texts about three old men catching up after their annual gathering. The first guy sighs and says he's worried someone might be missing from their group by next year. The second man scoffs at him like, "You're looking way too far ahead. I'm just worried that when I take my shoes off tonight, I might not wake up to put them back on tomorrow." But the third old man, he looks at both of them and says, "You guys are both looking way too far ahead. I'm just worried if the breath I'm exhaling right now will ever actually come back in." And wow, doesn't that just hit the nail on the head? It perfectly illustrates the absolute reality of our existence. It's like the ancient master Ji Gong noted, life in this lifetime is just a breath. Our lives don't actually span guaranteed decades or years. In the most literal sense, your life exists merely in that fleeting, fragile little space between a single inhalation and exhalation. Every single breath is essentially a brand new lease on life.
Now, when the spirit eventually leaves, ancient texts teach us that the physical body just becomes like an empty, overgrown house. Think about all that worldly success we chase, right? The fancy titles, the business empires, the bank accounts we obsess over, it all vanishes. Just like mist rolling through the mountains. We spend so much of our incredibly limited time building these massive castles out of smoke, and we completely forget about the foundation underneath.
Which brings us to a really critical concept that governs our entire reality. It's an ancient Pali term called Anicca, which means impermanence. Basically, it's the state of being not permanent, not enduring, and inherently unstable. Anicca is that ultimate truth, reminding us that whatever we possess today, whether it's our vibrant health, our youthful energy, or all that wealth, it is never ever guaranteed to be there tomorrow. Everything is in constant flux.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, this sounds a little gloomy, but actually, scratch that. Realizing impermanence isn't meant to be depressing or pessimistic at all. It's just a deeply grounded observation of nature's continuous cycle. Ji Gong said, "Every meeting ends in parting. What is born must die." It's totally natural. Just as flowers bloom and wither, or the sun rises and sets, our lives are just following that exact same rhythm. And recognizing this, it actually helps us appreciate the sheer, fleeting beauty of the present.
Listen to this striking traditional maxim. The coffin is for the dead, not just the old. It completely shatters this illusion of time we all cling to. We all have this deeply ingrained bias, right? We just assume we're naturally going to live to see old age, but we can't predict the length of our lives. Anicca is the ultimate director behind the scenes, and being young or full of vitality, that's not a magical shield against impermanence. So, how are we supposed to react to this reality? Well, consider this awesome parable comparing an 800-year-old man to a mayfly. You've got this 800-year-old man sitting around just sighing in deep despair over his eventual, unavoidable death. He's totally paralyzed by the thought of the end, despite having this extraordinarily long life. Meanwhile, a mayfly, a bug that literally lives for half a day, looks at him and just laughs. The mayfly chooses to completely cherish its few precious hours, living joyously and with purpose. Because honestly, it's not about the duration of your life, it's about the depth of it.
The true value of your existence is anchored entirely right here, in the present moment. For those who have passed on, there's absolutely no today. So if you're tuning into this explainer right now, you have the greatest asset imaginable. You literally have today. And what you choose to do with today is the only thing that truly matters.
In fact, we really should view Anicca as a tremendous gift. Think about it. If life weren't impermanent, we would be ordinary forever. We'd procrastinate endlessly, right? We'd always think, I've got all the time in the world. I'll do it later. But because our time is strictly limited, we're spurred into action. Impermanence gives us this urgent, amazing opportunity to cultivate goodness, to grow, and to actually achieve greatness. It's the ticking clock that pushes us to evolve.
To truly awaken to this, we have to examine how we view the world. We need to learn to let go of our egos and clearly distinguish between the fake and the real. The fake stuff, those are the temporary illusions of the material world, the fame, the status, the endless desires that eventually just fade into the fog. The real is the eternal nature of the spirit. It's our true character. It's the tangible good we put out into the world. And once we firmly grasp this idea of impermanence, we can actually manage our lives through 4 super practical steps. First, set a clear direction for your inner growth. Second, constantly distinguish the real from the fake in your everyday choices. Third, flow freely with circumstances rather than always fighting them. And fourth, take responsibility for your actions. Doing this puts you right in the driver's seat of your destiny, instead of just leaving your life up to blind fate. Let's break down exactly what actions create that meaningful life we're talking about. It means actively eliminating negative thoughts. It means truly cherishing your very limited time, accepting your circumstances without that bitter, exhausting resistance, and bravely bearing both your worldly and spiritual duties. Basically, just being the absolute best person you can be, right where you are. That's how you actively create a life of profound meaning and incredible value.
And this mindset entirely dictates our reality. Zhigong said, "He who has desire is narrow. He who has no desire is vast." Flowing freely with our circumstances, actually releasing our tight, anxious grip on all those endless worldly desires, it literally frees us. When you stop obsessing over every little thing you don't have, you drop these massive, heavy chains of anxiety and suffering. You become vast, you become open, and you finally find peace.
Ultimately, understanding impermanence forces us to take a hard look at our legacy. We really have to contrast worldly wealth, the money, the property, the businesses, against spiritual wealth. And spiritual wealth is made up of your virtue, your merit, and your history of good deeds. One of these is left behind to be fought over by lawyers. The other leaves a permanent, beautiful mark on the universe itself.
Here's exactly why that distinction matters so much. As the quote goes, "Leaving money to descendants doesn't mean they'll use it. Leaving virtue protects them." Material wealth rarely survives beyond 3 generations. It gets spent, it gets lost, it gets divided up. But cultivating and leaving behind a legacy of immense virtue, being a shining role model of goodness, that will protect, guide, and bless your descendants for a very, very long time.
So what's the absolute highest form of this virtue? Well, supreme virtue is literally dedicating yourself to the salvation and guidance of others. The ultimate expression of managing your life under the rule of Anicca, knowing full well your time is short, is dedicating your fleeting existence to helping people. That's exactly what the revered sages and teachers of the past did, right? They used their brief window of time to light the way for the rest of us.
Which brings us to our final, essential question for this explainer. Knowing that your life is truly merely the length of a single breath, what kind of legacy are you actively building right now? Are you just going to leave wealth, or are you going to leave virtue? I want you to take a deep breath right now. Look at the time you have today. How will you use it before it's gone?